Hey everyone, welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy, I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. This is the second time I had to redo this intro because the first time I messed up, even though we are almost at episode 500 and I've been doing this intro for years. So how are you doing? I'm okay, I'm flying solo for a little bit. Naomi went to New York. She's taping a Netflix special, and she went a little early to do some shows. I'm going to join her, but while I'm here, you know what they say, when the cat's away, the mice will take naps and rewatch Justified. And I gotta say, the biggest disparity between the quality of a theme song and the quality of the TV show that song is the theme song for is Justified. No shade to the band that created the theme song. It's not exactly my cup of tea, I'll say that. But even objectively. Alright, that's enough mean-spiritedness, because I got a great episode for you today. This is Anna McClellan. If you don't know who Anna is, why don't I read you her bio right now? Musician Anna McClellan began performing original songs in her hometown of Omaha, Nebraska at the age of 17, and has been actively recording and touring ever since. Her debut, Fire Flames, earned her an opening slot on a Frankie Cosmos tour. Through the doors that tour opened, McClellan eventually met Father-Daughter Records, which led to the release of her second full-length record, Yes and No, in 2018. After a stint in New York City, several subsequent tours, and meandering, Anna returned to Omaha and recorded I Saw First Light, her latest effort for Father-Daughter. It's fantastic. I've been listening to it a ton over the last year. Is what made me reach out to Anna and see if she wanted to talk. This is super interesting. We talk a lot about mental health in this episode and how Anna's struggles with depression tie into her musical career. It's very interesting. I hope you enjoy this. And I was thinking, if you're not familiar with Anna's music, I'm going to play a song before we get into the episode. But before then, if this is your first time listening to Beginnings, thank you for checking out the show. I've been doing this for 11 years, episode 500, coming up very soon. What I like to do here in the beginning is a little recommended if you like. If you're a fan of indie rock, if you like Anna's music, maybe you will like these other episodes that I have done. I've talked to Sadie Dupuis of Speedy Ortiz and Sad 13, St. Lennox, whose new album is just fantastic, Ellen Kepner from Palehound, Mac McCawn, Sam Prekop, Owen Pallett, Mary Timony, Isabel Campbell. That was just a couple episodes ago. So check out those. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast from. I'm on social media at Andy Beckerman on both Twitter and Instagram. And ooh, buddy, got some great episodes coming up next week. Joe Jack Talcum from the Dead Milkmen. Then Robert Popper, who's just a brilliant British comedy writer. Bill Oakley, one of the early Simpsons writers. So stay tuned for those. But for now, we're going to talk to Anna. But before then, I'm going to play a song from her latest album, I Saw First Light. This song is called Raisin.
Slower as we come to the mouth of the tunnel. I took that first summer, hold my breath and let it out. Daylight drapes like a red carpet gown when we pull off to see the view. Feels like high stakes when I look all the way down to the depths of Bear with us to that which is
started recording, you said you're hungover. I hope that's okay if I say that on the record.
That's perfectly fine.
And I haven't. I said I think I'm in a similarly strange headspace for other reasons. Did you see over the weekend? So I'll try to condense the story into this much information.
Okay.
Just the information you might need to know why my brain might be splattered on the pavement today. Over the weekend, SNL, Saturday Night Live, announced that Elon Musk and Miley Cyrus are doing are performing on, or the hosts on May 8th. Okay, so listeners, you will know when we are recording this by that information. Right. I've been doing a bit on Twitter where I make a fake. We have a cork board over there just off camera, and I make a fake little Saturday Night Live like guest hosting thing with nonsense names usually. And I thought I would do another one for this, and I was looking for the joke was like it was three things, and the third one, it was three like billionaires, and the third one was like the living Koch brother and the corpse of his sibling, something like that, right? And then I needed a pop star. I needed someone to be the Miley Cyrus to that. Mm-hmm. Now I've been doing this for 4 years, by the way, just so for all the people out there who anyway,
just started. I've been seeing those.
I've been doing this. I've been doing this bit for a long time. Okay, so I Googled who is. This is how like far at, like I'm obviously understand. I am aware of what's going. I know who Megan Thee Stallion is, right? I've heard.
Right. Do you repeat people though?
What do you mean?
Have you repeated anyone in the 4 years that you've done it?
No. It's it's by the way, it's also mostly nonsense. It's mostly like fake band names and just
okay.
H.R. Haldeman, who was like someone in Nixon's White House he was on, I don't know if he was Nixon's chief of staff, whatever, but it's like nonsense like that, right? And this is the first time where I'm like, well, I have to like parody someone who's like Miley Cyrus. So I just looked up and I picked Doja Cat. I just I'm just like, oh yeah, I know her. And also like she's, from what I remember, at least as a teenager, she said like really homophobic things online. So I'm like, okay, that's a safe one to make. That's a safe person to make fun of. All right. It was not a safe person, because also like I was not making fun. I just needed the name of a pop star. Mm-hmm. So I just chose that. And I didn't say anything. There was no comment on whether Doja Cat is good or bad, whether I like Doja Cat, right? It was just a name on a index card on my cork board that's supposed to be like Miley Cyrus. The punchline is like, here's a pop star to the corpse of a Koch brother. Uh-huh. All right. Well, this is my first. Now, I have plenty of friends that have had to deal with toxic fandom online, but this was my first direct experience with toxic fandom because the tweet went viral. I didn't have any control over that. Mm-hmm. And then Doja Cat people started coming for me as if I had said something bad. Again, remember, no. Okay. So at 1 a.m. last night, someone starts texting me photos of Doja Cat. And at first I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, shit, now my cell phone number is private. You would have to like pay a service.
It wasn't someone you knew?
Nope, not someone I knew. You would have to, and I started looking and I'm like, oh shit, people think that somehow I'm being critical of Doja, like her fans think I'm being critical of her in some way. They're like, this is how I learned. I mean, I knew in some way that reading comprehension in this country was very low, but this is how I like found out directly that it is truly, reading comprehension is truly like what's lower than low, beneath the crust of the earth.
Buried.
Yes, buried. And so one of them had, first of all, I got an email. Someone tried to like hack into my Instagram account, and then another, and then I got these. I don't know. They just tried it, and I have. Sorry, folks. My passwords are long and complicated, and you can't guess them. So then I started getting this text, and I realized someone had paid one of those services because you can't find my phone number. You have to pay like one of those like detective services online to get my information.
Whoa.
So someone went that far and then was texting me. So I did not get a lot. So the point of all of this is I did not get a lot of sleep last night.
Yeah.
So my brain, I think our brains are in, if there's anything good about you being hungover and me being in this anxious, sleepless state, is that we're already feeling the same vibes.
Yeah. I mean, yours sounds worse, honestly. I would rather be hungover.
Well, was it, you're hungover. Was it was it from just too much drinking in a bad way or too much drinking in a fun way?
It was from working. I work at a restaurant, and when it gets busy, I tend to drink more. So it was just crazy. And I did a stupid thing that I'm like playing over in my head now. I just like asked some like industry people, friends, if they had tipped because they didn't leave money, but it turns out they had already given me the money and I just forgot.
So are you that kind of person in general that you will, because that's the way I am, right? I'll say something that that probably, they probably were fine with it, right? But I felt so I feel embarrassed that I did it, and then that'll just replay in my head.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So did you then drink more to erase the embarrassment?
Probably. I was just like, oh God, okay. I'm already too far gone to no, it's not going to help.
Yeah, I don't drink very often.
Okay.
But the times that I have are, I would say, like probably 20% of them are related to like, shit, I just said something embarrassing at this party or something like that. Please, let's try to erase this memory. It never works, by the way.
No, it makes it worse for sure.
Yeah. There is almost no information about you online, by the way. So good for you.
That's
on
cool.
that.
I didn't know that.
No Doja Cat fans will come for you. But you're from Omaha. That I do know.
That's true.
You live there now. You grew up there. Is it a good place to grow up? I don't know much about it. I think Amber Ruffin is from Omaha.
She is.
Yes. And I remember her talking about the zoo when she was on the show.
The zoo.
But that's all I remember. That's all I know about Omaha. There's a nice zoo there.
Yeah. Honestly, I was pretty depressed as a kid. So I don't know. When I think about my childhood, I usually don't look at it fondly. I don't think there's anything wrong with Omaha. And yeah, I had a very like stable childhood, lived in the same house my whole childhood. Yeah, middle class working family. My parents worked a lot.
Yeah, I think we probably had similar childhoods. When you say depressed, do you mean like clinically, like you were actually like diagnosed with depression, or that just like it was like a sad kind of childhood?
Yeah, I never sought treatment. I don't think I knew how bad I was at the time. I thought I had to like hold it all and deal with it and be fine. But look, yeah, I mean, now in therapy and looking back, it's like pretty obvious that I was like anxious and depressed. And had a lot of obsessive thoughts.
That's interesting. It's so like I always assume when I talk to people who are younger than me, I think you're like maybe
I'm 27.
10 or you're 15 years younger than me.
Okay.
That I'm like, oh, things are so much better now. Like if I talk to someone who is queer and I'm like, oh, well, you're growing up in a time when people are way more accepting, and then everyone tells me like, no, my high school was still hell.
Totally.
People were still pieces of shit to me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, but you have depression. But we grow up in a time when mental health awareness is so much better. And then you're like, nope, I wasn't, I'm only in retrospect was I able to understand that I had anxiety and depression.
Dig that out. Yeah. It's just because it's not talked about or taught like mainstream, it's not like brought to the conversation when you start school. Yeah. There's no space for it. still. And so you have to have the space for it in your home life, which I didn't like. Yeah. I just didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, your parents are probably like maybe, I don't know, 10 years older than me or more. And I'm like, that would make that like, I don't know, like I don't even know when does it filter down? When do people start, like at what age is it going to be like your generation having children that starts to address these things
right
in a more like conscious and proactive way?
Yeah. When does it? I mean, for me, it's like now, if I have kids, I'm going to be damn sure that like there's transparency and honesty from the get-go. But I think it starts with you dealing with it for yourself.
Yeah, but that's another, I'm trying to think about it. And, that's then another thing that you have to, or another piece of your identity that you don't understand until you kind of excavate it, right? Like, because like our society is so heteronormative and cisnormative and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, infused with white supremacy. I could go on and on with all the things, right? If you are not that, right, you have to spend some chunk of your life figuring yourself out,
right?
Because society is like blasting this kind of white identity, this white cishet identity at you, right? And so you have to excavate it. And I get, like, I really didn't think about it before, but like, I guess it's the same thing with like mental health issues, because it's like, well, we live in such a sick society that pretends mental health issues really don't exist.
Right. So
you have to spend part of your life figuring out like, oh wait, I have anxiety and depression.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I mean, what was that journey like for you? Like, how did you kind of figure it out that it was a problem or that it was like affecting your life?
Honestly, like it was very recent. I sort of when I moved back to Omaha, it was to address my mental health. So it was like, I was 25 then, I guess. And yeah, I think it got really bad. And I like to the point where I feel like I wasn't functioning. And then I've been going to therapy since then. But I think I was still sort of like stuck in these patterns of holding on to it and not knowing how to ask for help.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. But when I was a kid or when I was in high school, I took a year abroad. My junior year, I went to Denmark.
Oh, wow.
So I think that was my way of being like, I feel fucked up here. I'm going to go. And then it just like, of course, it magnified all of the problems, all of this
really?
deep loneliness. Yeah. Cause so much of it was like surrounded, like loneliness and not feeling isolated. I spent a lot of time alone as a child in the summer, especially. And so then I just like removed myself from my community completely and was like totally alone somewhere. And it was really, really hard. But it's also where I started writing songs.
Oh, interesting. Like, what was it about Denmark? Was it just there something about Denmark that made you want to start writing songs? Was it just the isolation I think
so. I think it was the isolation. And yeah, what happened was during class, I couldn't understand. So they're very loose with school there. And especially since I was not like getting credit for anything. So I would just leave and go. There's a music room that I could have access to that I was, completely alone in. And I just started playing piano there.
Had you played music before that?
Yeah, I took piano lessons since I was 8.
Uh-huh. But you had never felt like writing a song before that?
No, it was another thing where I was like, I didn't think I could do it, or I didn't think I had I was very scared of it. And yeah. No, that fear, well, fear in general, that resonates with me. No, cause I was just thinking about like, one of the things that like scares me, especially about like dealing with mental health issues is, there's like a myth, and this is not my fear. But there's, I think, a myth that like people who make things
have, which is like, well, this is my fuel. Like this depression or this anxiety or whatever is my fuel. And if I deal with it, then I won't be able to write music or write
I'll have no
books
content.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not my fear. My fear is simply, what kind of person will I be? The unknown. It's just like, will I be the kind of person that I want to be after I go through this process of therapy or whatever?
Right.
And it's just this vague fear of not knowing that like really kind of grips me whenever, like, I have therapy in a couple hours from now, and
you have a lot to process.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But like, it's the, like, it's whenever I go into it being like because like a lot of it's just, I have I like my parents, and I think I had like a pretty, it seems the same as you, like a pretty just stable childhood, but like they can't help but fuck you up even if they are good, right? In some ways.
Yeah. I mean, my parents are very anxious. I know that. Are yours?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're Jews.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that's part of the package.
Right.
Yeah. And just like things like, oh, am I going to be the kind of person that is like friends with my parents, which I'm not. Like, we're still very like parent child. And I'm like, oh, would that be weird? I know other people that I like, friends of mine are friends with their parents and like tell their parents intimate things. And I'm like, oh, am I going to be that kind of person? That's weird. And it's kind of scary to me.
I see. I get that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, when you were growing up, what kind of relationship did you have with your parents? Has that changed over time too?
Oh yeah. I mean, we kind of are friends. I don't necessarily like talk intimately with them about a lot of things, but they live close and we hang out and we'll like go to a bar together sometimes, or like do casual things. But when I was growing up, my mom and I were really close when I was younger. And then sort of like, I sort of started like, I don't know, shutting down to everyone and especially them. Like when I was in my adolescence, pretty normal. But my sister and I both did a lot of like drugs and drinking in high school, but she's the one that got caught for it. So they had a very, eruptious relationship, and following in the stead of that, I wanted to be, I didn't have a lot of friction with my parents in that same way.
So you hid the drugs and drinking?
I guess there's no way. I think they maybe were in denial. I'm not sure. There was a combination of like, me not getting caught as much or like being as risky as her, and them like, I don't know. I think just like willful denial in some ways. My mom would always be like, "Oh, you look tired."
Yeah. I mean, no, I don't, because I was always scared. I was like frightened to death that anything I did in high school would somehow affect the rest of my future. I mean, I don't even really like alcohol. I don't really like the taste of it. So at some point in my adulthood, I was just like, oh, I don't have to drink this if I don't want to. Oh, okay. There's nothing compelling me. I can learn how to talk to someone at a party rather than drink this thing, which doesn't really help that much anyway.
No.
But like, what was it? Just like, this is forbidden? I'm always so intrigued by people who, especially in high school, because it was so forbidden to me and so scary that it just like stayed in another realm.
Yeah. What's the entice?
Yeah, like what was exciting about it? What was enticing? Or
I think like, part of it was like I kind of learned. My sister introduced these things to me, so there's like wanting to be cool and like feeling like old, and then also like getting high the first time was really fun and really funny, and it made me laugh. And like same with drinking, it was like, whoa, new mind space, like this is good, like I'm so bored, I feel something now. Just the way. And then actually smoking weed makes me very anxious. And I think I did it for a long time, sort of like pushing that down. But yeah, it's like all my friends did it. I don't know. It's just what we did. It was just something to do, I think.
So is Omaha boring?
I mean, yeah, it's like a Midwest. Have you been to the Midwest much, or are you a coast person?
Look, I'm Jewish. My wife is black. We try to stay to major cities.
There, exactly.
On the coasts. Yeah. We try not to go below the Mason-Dixon line. There are, there's there's just some places like, oh, where were we? Oh, my wife. So we just got like fully vaxxed, and she was able to get her hair done for the first time in like a year. And in Los Angeles is like very segregated. And if you're black and you want to get your hair done, you have to go to where black people are. And so the woman that does her hair is like, half an hour away in this like smallish town part like of south of Los Angeles called Bellflower. And
interesting.
We were walking around there, and I'm never more aware that we're an interracial couple than when we are walking in like small town areas. It becomes I'm very conscious of that. And that. So yes. So we try to stay too. So I don't know anything about, besides what people have told me about Omaha.
Got it.
Mutual of Omaha. Isn't there like a insurance company?
Mutual of Omaha. Yeah. I don't know what they do.
I think it's an insurance
company. They have
company.
A building. Okay, cool. See, you know more than me.
But I don't know the experience. Yeah. I don't know the existential part of growing up in Omaha.
Omaha is also very diverse, but it's very segregated. Like, yeah. And so I grew up in like the white neighborhood, but went to a school that's like more in the downtown and very diverse. It's called Central. Mm-hmm. But what was... Oh, yeah. But so like, there's not a lot to do. I don't know. I mean, it's not like we're like going... Yeah, you just like go to your friends' houses or like drive around and try to find weed.
Okay.
And then play music. We all played music too. And a lot of my friends had bands in high school.
And when did you go to Denmark? Like how old were you?
My junior year.
Junior year. So your friends, were you playing music with them already? No. So
I was just around them.
They were playing music. You go off to Denmark. When you're like kind of isolating, when you like decide to go to Denmark, do you mind walking me through that decision? Like what was going on in your head a little bit? Because I'm kind of curious because this is part of the path that leads to you making music. And I'm kind of curious about like what is going on in your brain.
I mean, I heard the announcement on the school speaker. They were like, Rotary International, if you want to apply. And then I was just like, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I went and talked to my parents, and they were like, yeah, that seems like a good experience.
Like, could they tell you were feeling depressed?
No. Nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone always is like, tells me that I seem like I'm doing so well. It's part of my like thing that I've been trying to work through and work with is like being better at showing that I'm not okay. Or I don't know. It's like very hard. I have a lot of guards around that.
Yeah. I mean, what does that come from? Is that just I don't know. I guess what does that come from?
Yeah, good question. It's what I've been like trying to unpack with my therapist. But some of what we've figured out is like because I spent so much time alone, like when I have a chance of being in a social situation, like I don't want to jeopardize it or make them leave because I'm not okay. Like I need to be, Yeah,
that makes sense.
Be there for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. In order to get my needs too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
I totally, there is, that's been a thing too. I mean, that really, look, your music resonates with me a lot, and I wonder if there's some of these similar kinds of feelings that I'm getting to. I mean, besides the fact that I guess you could probably sing whatever you wanted in, I still like the music really, hits me. But, and your voice really hits me. But like, there's this other, I guess there might be this feeling also that resonates where there is that kind of like, I also have those kinds of things where I think when I was younger, I spent a lot of time isolated. I spent a lot of time on my own.
You did?
But not from depression. Just I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like playing in my head. I enjoyed just imagining things.
Yeah. So you weren't like constantly being like, what's wrong with me? All of this.
No.
At the same time that you were alone. Yeah, you were just chilling.
No, but that's your experience was more just like you felt something vaguely wrong and you didn't know how to articulate it.
Yes. There was something in the pit of my stomach.
Oh God.
Always. Yeah. It's bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel a lot lighter these days. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, God, I mean, we're talking. I mean, when do you think that feeling started? Like, how old were you?
I don't remember it not being there. I don't know. Maybe like, probably like 6.
Ah, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's so tough to like. So you start having this vague feeling of something's wrong.
I had a really good friend move away when I was 6, and it like broke my heart a little bit. And I think that's where it started.
And so you have just this like kind of feel this like disquiet in you, and you don't know how to like. Yeah, is it like? Do you come from an emotionally open family? Like, do you guys talk about your emotions?
No, we're Lutheran. My dad's side of the family is Lutheran. I grew up Methodist, in a very like progressive church, but there's like the Lutheran sort of like repress, don't ask for help, you know.
I don't.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's like kind of like the I don't know, stereotype of Lutheran, but there's a lot of truth in it too. It's like, yeah.
Oh man. So I mean, that's almost like, you know, I think about a lot of like, especially in America, there's this Calvinist kind of feeling, and I guess like that this kind of Lutheran Protestant strain that's very much like you have to be very self-sufficient. You have to do everything on your own.
Don't show your feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really, I think on a national level is, you know, nationally we need some kind of like political therapy because that is so ingrained in the psyche of the country.
Yeah. Especially white. I feel like it's a very white thing.
Yeah. And it's so it's just interesting how, not to hold you up, not to like, make your pain some kind of like science experiment or something like that. But like, I think it's really interesting how like you are, in some way a product of this whole system, right? That prizes isolation and, that rewards isolation and like putting up a facade.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's like survival or something.
Yeah. But like in reality, you're just like sitting there kind of just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And like trying to figure out on your own when really it should be, something that we should all be talking about and dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel very, very passionate about like trying to make it more open now and like finding ways of like talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, does depression run in your family?
Again, not in a like clinical way, like, but I would say yes. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. Definitely my immediate family. My sister had similar problems growing up. And then, yeah, I don't know. My parents haven't been like diagnosed or whatever, but yeah, I think so. I kind of think everyone's depressed a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, over the last couple of years, I've been thinking a lot about how there's this, especially in America, there's this like tendency to be like, we're happy. We're all happy. We're all happy. Right. This kind of like manic kind of fake happiness. Right. Yeah. But like you're like trying to like project it onto everything. Yeah, we're all happy. Right. We're all feeling the same thing. And I have a nagging suspicion that the like basic emotion for being human is melancholy and not happiness. Right. Not
Yeah.
sadness, but like a melancholy. Like you have this like obvious awareness you're gonna die. We all have this obvious awareness, and that just like makes
Yeah.
everything a little bit melancholy.
Yeah. Melancholy is beautiful. I don't know, it feels nostalgic to me or something. Those two together. Yeah.
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 So driving
that.
around, is there anything like about growing up in Omaha that was actually fun, or were there any experiences you had that were actually either creatively or intellectually stimulating?
Yeah, I mean, my friends and I made a lot of fun and we would go to shows, and yeah, I was like around a lot of very creative people. My high school boyfriend was like this artist, musician, and he was always like having all these cool projects and ideas, like videos. There's some really good sketches that I think he took down, but like really funny shit. Yeah.
Was there some kind of gendered thing? Were you relegated to, in quotes, girlfriend?
I don't know. Maybe. Like, it was a lot of dudes a lot of the time. There were definitely other girls around, but I think my closest friends were guys, and but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, we had a very like friend type of relationship too. Yeah. I don't know. Not necessarily. Like, yeah. It was like, I'm Elijah's girlfriend. Yeah, it wasn't really.
No, I was just
We were
asking
like
that because,
friends.
often two things. One, I was wondering if gender is less, if there's less kind of like gender essentialism, I suppose. Again, you are younger than me, and I'm curious if things are getting better there. And also too, often women, especially creative women in relationships with a guy who's creative, often kind of get subsumed
Right.
under the kind of male ego or get like pushed
Right.
away. And I was kind of curious if there was that kind of dynamic.
Right. No, it wasn't. I think I was not. I didn't realize that I had something to offer until after I went away. And then when I came back, that's when I started like doing my own songs, and everyone was very supportive and like excited about it. But yeah, I had to find it first.
So the other question then is, do you think gender differences are less, do you think there's like less gender essentialism in, I know I'm asking you to speak for your generation when,
Right.
at least how about like in your immediate life, do you think people have, as you were growing up, do you think people were less invested in like gender differences than they were when I was growing up?
I think probably less, yeah. But I don't think not at all. I think, yeah, like still in Omaha, there's so many more men that are musicians than women, or at least like that are out playing. Like I've had a hard time finding, like being able to book shows. Yeah.
Really?
But yeah, and I don't know if I'm like, is that my problem? Like, am I just don't know who to ask, or like I'm not tapped into something that's happening, which maybe is part of it. But
Yeah.
then at the same time, it's like there's obviously something missing. If like, I don't know. It's not like I'm completely tapped out.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, so yeah, that's that like kind of insidious thing. The insidious part of like sexism or racism or, homophobia or whatever, right? That where it leaves you in this state of not knowing whether you just haven't done something where you're like, oh, should I have reached out to
Yes.
blank? Should I have, written an email to whoever?
Right.
Or is it just because I'm a woman or I'm a whatever that
Yeah.
that they're not thinking of me? Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like not necessarily me not getting asked to play shows, but being able to find other women to play, like book bills that have like no men on the bill.
Oh, wow.
Like that is a hard thing.
Wow.
because there's definitely no like all women band or like non-men bands. Yeah around. And so in that way, yeah, it's like, I don't know, yeah, that's I feel like problem that you see in the Midwest more, or like in Omaha. Like when I lived on the coast, I didn't experience that as much or like have that problem.
Yeah. You lived in New York, right?
I did.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
Things started to go downhill in New York. I don't know if
You're asking?
Yeah, I'm asking. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about it. If not, we can, no pressure.
Okay. I guess I'm just, oh, you mean like as far as the scene goes? Or
no,
what?
just for you, because I'm just trying to chart your like,
oh.
I want to eventually go back to Denmark a little bit, but I'm just like kind of, so like Omaha, you moved to New York, and then you said you moved back to Omaha to kind of like deal with your shit.
Yes. Things started to go downhill. Yes. So when I put out the record before I Saw First Light, Yes and No, I gave up my apartment to go on tour because I couldn't afford to keep it and also be on tour. So I was like living with my sister in the intermediate times. And then once the touring was over, I was like, what am I going to do? So I moved upstate for about 6 months or like 5 months for the summer. I worked at a retreat center cooking and also on a farm.
Oh, cool.
And it was really there that things started to go. I mean, they were going bad, just like with all the instability and like, yeah, I was just, yeah. I think I hadn't dealt with my shit. So then putting myself in this like really rocky situation just like exacerbated a lot of issues. And then went upstate and it was really isolating. And I was in this community that I didn't feel comfortable, or like there was just a lot of external stress as well, like within the workplace. And so yeah, I sort of like turned into like a crisis.
Huh. I mean, what was the deal with the people that like you just didn't like get along with them?
So yeah, it was like, I don't know, this strange sort of like revolutionists like community, social justice. It's a social justice retreat center, but there was a lot of internal power struggles happening with the leadership. And it made working there very uncomfortable and like, yeah, not feel held.
Yeah. It's weird to me that, well, I guess it's not that weird, but I guess intellectually it's weird. And I don't know how to characterize it. I'm in DSA, and the more that I am actively, like I've always been a socialist. I mean, at least for the last 20 years or so. Right. And I've been pretty far left for most of my life, but like actually getting into activist spaces, like how much weird tension and how much weird shit there is between people. And I'm like, can we just focus? Can we just focus on like, hey, there's a new child detention center in Long Beach. Can we all just focus our attention on dealing with that and not about whatever weird thing is going on between these two people that is like fucking everything up. Like this is not, look, I have to deal with that stuff with my creative endeavors. All right. I have to deal with like making sure that like I vibe with the producer and that I'm on these executives' good side and all this other kind of stuff that can we not have that in this space where I'm not getting paid for any of this stuff. I do that stuff with like producers and executives and other writers and things like that because that's, podcasters, all whatever, right? That's just paying the bills. So I've got to figure that out. Can we not do that in this thing where I'm not getting paid and I'm here because I feel like there's a moral imperative to do this work?
Yeah. Can you separate yourself and but sometimes you can't. And I feel like it's important to also figure out social and interpersonal dynamics in those spaces because then it makes the work better. But the thing that was going on up there, I'm not really going to get into it, but it was fucked up, and it did need to be talked about and addressed, and it wasn't. So, and it wasn't even my thing. Like, I wasn't involved. I was just, and I'm not really even I guess I'm an activist, but like more so probably now than I was then. So I was just like, I'm just trying to be up here. I don't know. So but there's a lot of like exclusivity in those communities as well. So the fact that I wasn't tapped in as an activist made me feel bad and like shameful. And like I didn't know anyone. So yeah, it was just a bad situation, and I was already in a bad place. And then, yeah, I had decided I was going to move back to Omaha, kind of like while I was there.
Yeah. I mean, what made you want to, I guess what radicalized you to like want to go work with these people in the first place? Was it just
probably my sister? She knows them. I got the job through her. And she'd also worked up there, like, 'cause she lives in Brooklyn. So she'd go and work there over the weekend sometimes. And her best friend worked there at the time. And so, yeah. And I mean, it was sweet. Like, there were so many cool things about it. Like, it was a beautiful property, private, like, watering hole, Hudson Valley. It's like gorgeous up there. So there was a lot of things that seemed like it would be really like relaxing and just like a cool summer job while I was like figuring out my next moves.
And it's interesting, like thematically, what's happened during our talk has been this kind of like theme of, hey, here's different spaces where no one's talking about their shit, and here's how these spaces go wrong because no one's talking about whatever shit is being repressed or at least ignored.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like so much, I feel like, of what we do all the time. It's just like not talk about the thing that we should be talking about.
I mean, this is very reductive, but do you think, writing songs was a way of talking about the things you weren't talking about? I say it's reductive because it's so like first grade Freud, but
yeah, of course. I mean, that's like, yeah, when I wrote my first song in Denmark, it was like, wow, I'm just saying how I actually feel. Radical.
Was that real? Like, did you have some kind of emotional breakthrough when you started writing music?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It was huge. And it was like the first time I'd gotten validation for it, because the people, other students, like, and there was like a house band or something at the school, and they would be walking by and hear me playing in there. And they told me that they really liked it and that it was really good. And then I ended up performing the song like for the whole school at like one of the parties. So yeah, it was like being like, oh, I'll say whatever I think truly, and then I get like good feedback about it. So yeah, it was really cool. It was definitely a like revelation. It was at least a first step in a revelation.
I mean, how did that expand? How did it go from like, oh, I wrote this one song, people really seem to like it, to, all right, well, I'm going to write lots of songs. I'm going to put out albums. I'm going to, do this professionally.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not sure. I mean, basically, yeah, when I was in Denmark, it was like I realized that I liked it and that I liked to do it and I want to keep doing it. And then I came home and just wrote more songs. I had 5 songs. So I played a show in my friend's basement. And that was like another big moment where everyone was like, oh my God, this is so good. And then 2 of my friends were like, we want to be in your band. So we started a band called Howard. And we started playing like out and writing songs together, or like I would bring them stuff and they would add their parts, and yeah.
Did it feel weird to be emotionally vulnerable in front of other people? I don't just mean an audience, but like if other people are in a band with you and this is your personal outlet to kind of talk about the things that you've been repressing or ignoring.
Yes. There was a lot of struggle there, and it wasn't very pretty. That band didn't end well, I think, for those reasons, because it was hard to be emotionally vulnerable in front of each other, and there wasn't the space. The space wasn't made for it to, the container wasn't there. So, yeah.
I mean, how did that manifest?
The solo thing is better. It manifested in a lot of like not talking about it. And then I remember one day we had practice and we were supposed to play a show. And I remember I like got mad. I forget. I was just like, why don't we ever talk about these things? Like, there's some fucked up stuff going on. And then one of the guys was just like kind of disengaged and didn't like want to like go there. So I ended up playing the show alone, and we like, but it was like dude shit where like they would make fun of me for being a girl. Yeah.
That's some real fourth grade shit.
It was, and it was like hard. It was really hard. And like, yeah, I didn't know. Yeah. They had this thing that I wanted, which was like them playing on my songs. And so I felt like we broke up eventually because it all became too much. It became way too much.
Yeah, no, I really feel that. Cause there's two things. One is, no one's talking. Like, this is the like, when I had a band in college that like, this is such a weird dynamic because, okay, there's some, like, no one's talking about their feelings and their emotions, right? And so it creates this tension there. And then there's also this kind of thing like, we're making really good music. I don't want to fuck that up. I don't even mean fuck that up by like us talking together, but I mean like, I want to just concentrate on that, right? And we're going to put all our energy into that. And so you have these two kind of like contradictory things pushing against each other until it finally, it always bursts, right?
Oh yeah, and it's ugly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, I remember from that time, there was a lot of like weird irrational anger, and in retrospect, I didn't know where that was coming from, and it was all generated from that tension of like, I can't talk about my emotions, even though these are my friends, or like, my girlfriend at the time was like, she a wonderful musician, great. She had a really great voice, and we needed someone else in the band. And I'm like, oh, why don't you, come be in the band.
Be in our band.
And then we broke up at some point, and she was still in the band. What are we going to do? She's great. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Ask her to leave the band, even though she's a wonderful musician. So there was all that shit also going on. And of course, because like, I don't know how to talk about, this is like years before therapy. I don't know how to talk about my emotions. None of them know how to talk about their emotions. And we're still in this group that is doing this creative act together. And then it just gets like, you just have these like weird, irrational moments of anger and you don't know why until afterwards, a decade later. Yeah, I definitely have a lot of that. Had a lot of that. I mean, when did you was it just through therapy that you were able to kind of like have a stable band, or, when did it like actually kind of like cohere? I think like I really love the thing of not having a stable band and not having to be committed to anyone else. I like being in control of my stuff, and it's like, I know I have control issues, but this is one place where I feel like it's okay. Because it's, I don't know. I have a vision. Yes. That the eternal conundrum of creating things is like, you have a certain vision for something. I mean, and yet your vision depends on other people either buying in to your vision or just doing the thing you're telling them to do. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Right. But it's worked out so far. My friend Ryan and I kind of like,
he has a band too called Staffers, and we play in each other's bands and like collaborate very closely, but we still have our own projects and our own autonomy. But he's kind of like my ride or die in music.
Do you think it's easier to kind of follow your own vision living in Omaha? I'm just thinking about like the I assume the cost of living is lower than, New York or.
Oh yeah, it's so nice. I pay less for an entire house.
Yeah. I remember when I lived in Pittsburgh, I had a house. I split a house with a friend of mine, and my half of the rent was $320.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. That still happens here. Less and less. It's getting more expensive. But yeah, I mean, I live alone in this house, so I can be as loud as I want all hours. And that has been really huge for me as far as like my self-consciousness goes around. Like I get very self-conscious about people hearing me write and stuff, which I haven't even thought about in a couple of years now because it hasn't been an issue. So then there's space for all these other things to come up. Like all of this other stuff has come up being alone and like having time to process. Because I have had a lot of like blockages around creating. But I feel like I'm moving through them in a way.
That's interesting. I mean, we're right at the end of the show. Do you mind if I ask a little bit about that? About like what is the process of like getting through those blockages?
Well, I've been doing a lot of yoga.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just finished a yoga teacher training, and I think that really, like helped me. Yeah, I had a really big opening in January from like I think culminating in this like practice. Yeah. So that, and then I don't know, like just like practicing not shutting down. Because that's like usually what I do is I just shut down and like try to shut it away. I was doing that this morning with The Hangover. I was like, don't shut it. Like it sucks. It hurts. Don't like shut it out though. And then I just started breathing and like filling my belly with breath, and it helped. Yeah.
It's funny how much of therapy is about just learning to be aware of an emotion in the moment and then not distracting yourself from it so that you learn how to like tolerate that emotion.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did
useful skill.
I did yoga for a while, but I don't think I ever connected it with anything. I've been thinking about going back to doing it because I don't know. I have a real problem like between like the mental and the physical. Like they are two separate realms in.
Yes. Same. Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. I could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah. And it feels like yoga is something that like helps ground you and connect the two. Exactly.
Yeah. It gets you in your body. I mean, I live in my head. So, it's like helped me get in my body. And when you're in your body, your body knows what's going on.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the same for you, but that's been the process for me is like learning to trust the actual like physical, flesh and organs.
Right.
that really makes myself up.
Yeah. So, yeah. I really relate to that.
And then I think it's interesting too, just to like kind of put a point on this. It's interesting how like what started out your problems was isolation. And now you're back to isolation, but you've gone through this process where you are comfortable in it in some way.
Yeah. And it's chosen now, and it's in smaller doses. Like, I also spend a lot of time being social. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Anna, I mean, this has just been a delight. Thank you for talking. Thank you for being open.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
cool.
I think I wrote, but I've just been listening to your music so much in quarantine. It's so good.
Cool.
So, thanks.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, 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 bye. Bye.